Suave.
I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mentor. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different road, changed relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now
Bet Online is your number one source for all of your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Alrighty, guys, we are back with another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Robinson. Before we get into the interview today and introduce our guest, man, you know we got to get the business out the way. Before you guys go any further, go ahead and stop, take a pause, and tap that subscribe button down below if you're watching this on YouTube. We're on the road to 10K. We just hit 8,600 subscribers on YouTube. So shout out to you guys for supporting us, running this up, man. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating, like the show. It goes a long way. Leave a review, man. This is going to be a great conversation, as always, so that helps this show just kind of get pushed out to more and more people. That was my guy, Pull Up Tay, on the intro. It's going to be him again on the outro. Just dropped the album, so make sure you guys tune into his music. One of the hottest up-and-coming artists out of the DMV, man. Y'all know that. But without further ado, man, we are pleased to be joined by a guy who is one of the best guards overseas right now in Europe, a guy who I had the pleasure of meeting in person a couple years ago back in Milan during the FIBA break. Somebody who's played all over the world, and somebody who I think a lot of you guys will be able to draw inspiration from just from his story. Been a long time coming, man. Glad we finally be able to get this done, man. But we are
Yes, sir.
on this episode by John Roberson, man. John, thanks for coming on with us.
Nah, I appreciate you having me, man.
No doubt, man. Like I said, I know a lot of folks definitely going to enjoy this interview, man. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I know you're in the middle of your offseason, man. So just talk to me about, how that's going so far. How's life, man? How's, I know the season can be stressful. So finally getting into that all-season is, the best part of every overseas hooper is of the year. Talk to me about the all-season, how that's going so far.
Nah, absolutely, man. It was a tough season, man. A long 10-month season, a grind, a lot of practices because, we were only playing once a week. So you know how that goes. So it's good to be back home. You get to see the family, you get to see friends, you get to visit. And you also got to put that work in while you're over here too. So, you can't get too lazy or complacent. So that's what I'm trying to do. Just, stay busy, keep working on my game. And, relax a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how much time do you normally give yourself off before you start ramping it back up as far as workouts once the season ends?
Man, when I was younger, it was about 2 to 3 weeks. But, the older I get, I realize how hard it is to get back in shape. Yeah. So after this year, and it's crazy because during the year you be telling yourself, "Oh, I'm not gonna touch a basketball for a month."
Yep.
And then when it gets time to relax and to just get away from basketball, for me personally, I start missing it too much, and I get the itch, and then I start thinking, for me, I get paranoid. I'm like, man, I've been off too long. Yeah. I start getting anxious. Yeah. So this summer, I only took 1 week off, and I got right back to it after a week. So part of that is because I'm going to be playing in the TBT in July, and I want to be ready for that. So I don't want to get too out of shape. I'm 34 now, so it might take me about 2-3 weeks to get back into game shape. So I just want to stay ready, so I don't have to get ready. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's a great mentality to have, man. That's a great mentality to have.
Appreciate it.
What does a normal all season look like for you? Like as far as your training goes, like what is a normal day? I know, obviously you might have the weights, the on the court stuff, and people oftentimes can see kind of what NBA guys do in the off season. But for overseas guys who may not know, like what does a normal off season day look like for you? How do you structure your days around training and leisure time in the off season?
For me, man, I try not to be too, just specific as far as like I'm doing this at 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Like for me, I like to find days where we have runs going on. I like to get my individual workouts in when I can. I just try to make sure I'm doing something every day. I don't want to have days where I'm just not doing anything. So for me, I'm blessed to be in an area where we have a lot of pros who want to get together in the summer and play. We have a lot of guys who do individual workouts here. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays is pickup. Sometimes if determine how my depends on how my body is feeling. I try to get those individual workouts in, but I like to listen to my body really, and I don't want to push too hard because you do need to rest. Especially at my age. When I was younger, it was a little easier to do something every day. But right now, I'm just trying to play a little bit here and there, make sure I have my cardio right, and get the weights in when I can. And as long as I'm doing something every day, I feel good.
That's good. That's dope. I think that's a dope mindset to have. And before we kind of switch gears into your upbringing and stuff like that, I wanted to ask you because it just popped into my head when I was thinking when you were talking about the off season and the training and how you kind of structure your week. I remember I was listening to a podcast and Andre Iguodala was talking about how he approaches the off season, right? And he was talking about how young guys oftentimes, right, when they're going to the off season, you might need to improve on your ball handling. You might need to become a better, guy in the pick and roll, making reads, and then you might need to, you might say, I want to add a couple, higher percentage points on my 3-pointer, things like that. You might have all these different things that you might say, all right, this is what I got to work on in order to become a complete player, right?
Mm-hmm.
What he was saying was, I think he said he might learn this from Kobe, but he was like, if you try to approach an all season and say, well, I want to improve on, 3 or 4 things, right? And try to do a little bit of everything, then you might only get like marginally better at those things. And it might take you a longer time before you can become a complete player. It's like you're not really getting that much better. He said,
that makes sense.
All seasons is, all right, you know what? I'm going to pick one thing in my game and I'm going to attack this all summer. So let's say I want to become a better low post scorer. So obviously you're still going to hit your spot shot. You're going to do your ball handling in 10 minutes, but the majority of that workout is going to be, I'm going to work on this low post, mid post game, whatever. And when I come into next season, it's going to be a drastic difference. And he basically talked about you do that over the course of a couple of years. One summer you perfect your low post scoring. Then next off season you perfect your jump shooting and things like that. And then before you know it, you got a whole complete bag. So as a guy who's been playing, overseas for a long time, how do you approach getting better in the off season and your approach to training? Is it kind of like, I'm gonna focus on one thing, or you kind of like, I'm gonna try to just focus on a little bit of everything and things like that? How do you focus on improving your game in the off seasons?
For me, I think, I'm the type of player who relies on my shooting, my ball handling, passing ability, but most importantly, like I feel like I have to be in the best shape. I have to be in better shape than anybody else on the floor. Me being a point guard, you have to pick up, you have to play defense, you got to run the team. So you have to do so much, and you have to be in the best shape possible. So I work a lot on my body. But as far as on the court things, I think I'm a rep guy. Like I love to get the reps up and to practice off ball shooting, off the dribble shooting, pull ups, all those things. I think are the reasons why like I'm able to shoot good percentages throughout the season. And you got to know what type of player you are. You got to know what the team is going to ask of you, because sometimes you can practice, like you said, low post all summer. Then you get to the team, they don't want you to play low post.
Right.
You know what I mean? So another part of that is just knowing your game, knowing what you are going to be asked to do, and perfecting those things first before you work on those other things that can come later on. You know what I mean? So for me, I've tried to perfect the things that I know. When a team looks up John Roberson and they see me on film and they know, okay, this is what we're gonna get, then when I show up, don't ask me to try to do nothing else. You know what I'm bringing to the table. You know what I mean? So it's like that's what I've kind of made my career as, is just being who I am and just perfecting those things like shooting, ball handling, getting to my spots, and keeping it simple, really.
That's a gem. That's a gem. And I hope for the folks that listening to this, man, can take something from that. Because you said a couple of things that I think are super important. Number one, you said you just knowing who I am, and knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and being able to identify those things. Number two, man, keeping it simple, man. Basketball is a simple game when you really break it down. You know what I'm saying? It's a simple game, and I feel like you can get yourself into trouble when you try to go outside of those things and, like you said, do things that you may not be comfortable with or that you may not have worked on in the summer. So if you keep it simple, show the team what you're great at, I think that'll take guys, a long way. So I appreciate
Absolutely
knowledge on that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that obviously, where you are right now, you're lucky to have a bunch of guys who are, hooping and you got the pro run and stuff. I want to kind of take it back a little bit to just, your upbringing, right? I know you were born in Kansas City, Midwest guy, and then you had a stint in Florida, you moved over there, and then kind of established roots in high school in Texas and Plano,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. So just talk to me about your upbringing, kind of how you got introduced to the game, and what you can remember about those early years, around basketball.
Man, I just remember always loving the game. My dad is the person who really introduced me to the game, showing me his pictures in the yearbook and him being in high school and just growing up hearing stories about, oh, your dad was this, your dad was that. Really kind of lit that fire for me. And then once I started, I was about 7. Once I got started, it was my first love, and I just fell in love with it. And I was super blessed to be where I was. I was in Florida around other little kids who loved the game of basketball. And those little kids just ended up being super, super good players as well. Nick Calathis, Chandler Parsons, Joey Rodriguez are some guys I played with. Darius Washington, Torian Green, like all came from the same area. And just being around those guys really like pushed me to try to be better and always work on my game. And it was just like a life. It was just like a lifestyle. Like they say, ball is life now. Like that's what it was. Like we lived for basketball. We just loved it, and I've been in love ever since. And I think you see a lot of guys who don't love it, and you got to really love it if you're gonna play this game and get better and want to get better, and make it a career and play for a long time. You know what I mean? So I was just super blessed to be around those guys growing up, and then I moved to Texas when I was a junior in high school. Didn't want to move, wanted to stay with my friends and continue that, but ended up being a blessing in disguise. I wasn't really heavily recruited coming out of Florida, and when I came here, I got some more looks, and ended up, getting a college scholarship to Texas Tech. Played for Bob Knight. You know what I mean? So that was a great experience to play for him and play for Pat Knight. So yeah, it's been a journey, man, and I wouldn't trade anything.
So I got a twofold question. Number one, what was that experience like playing for Bob Knight? Because we've all heard all the crazy stories and about that experience. So number one, what was that experience like playing for Bob Knight? But then before that, what made you commit to Texas Tech in the first place? Because I feel like around that time, Texas Tech has come a long way. Now they're, made national championship, Final Four. Back then, Texas Tech wasn't necessarily a basketball school, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you want to go there in the first place? And then, get into that, Bobby Knight experience as a player.
Oh man. I just saw what he was doing for guys who weren't heavily recruited. I was a 3-star coming out of high school, so I wasn't like the 4 or 5 stars that were getting the recognition from Duke and all those, those high majors. So I saw he was taking like guys who weren't, heavily recruited and turning them into better players, turning them into stars, and what he was accomplishing at Texas Tech. So I saw that, and then the fact that he came to my house, this is Bob Knight, like it was like a big deal for me. And he's in my living room eating snacks, talking to my mom. I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. And I knew he was. I needed somebody who was gonna be tough on me, because when I was younger, I was stubborn, bro. I was stubborn. So I knew I needed somebody tough who was going to tell me the truth and was going to coach me hard. So That's what I needed, and I wasn't going to shy away from it. I know they're playing in the Big 12. I'm playing against the top players in a great conference, so I wanted to play against the best and have an opportunity to play as well. I knew I was going to get a chance to play coming in as a freshman, so that was big for me. And yeah, man, that's pretty much the reason I went to Texas Tech.
So, and then once you got there, you're on campus, playing for Coach Knight. Did you ever? When did it first click? Like, oh snap! Like this is real. You feel me? Like this. I might have heard the stories, but like, nah, this is real life. You know what I'm saying? What did that hit? Did you have any?
Nah, it was the first workout we had. In college back then, the first workout it was only like 30 minutes. Like that's all you could do when you. It was the hardest 30 minutes I ever experienced in my life playing basketball. It was intense. It's full speed. He's yelling at you. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, man, what is going on? And it was really like a wake up call. Like, wow, like this introduction to college basketball. Like it was a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, he pushed you a lot, man. And I got some stories I probably can't say right now, but a lot of things happened, and he was very intense. He didn't like to lose, but I learned a lot from him. And if you can play for Bob Knight, you can play for anybody. So,
fact. Do you have any stories that you can share about Coach Knight that wouldn't get folks make folks feel that type of way about the situation?
oh man, like just the story of him coming into my house. He recruited me, man. He just had like a sense of humor that you don't think that Bob Knight is gonna have. And he can keep it light as well as be intense, but he was a great guy. He was just, one time I remember we were losing games. We had lost a couple of games in a row. And we show up to the arena and none of our practice gear is in the locker room. He's like, you don't deserve to wear the Texas Tech gear. You got to wear your own stuff. And then we get to the gym, and he done set up tables with ice cream and cake and candy. And he's like, oh, yeah, this is what you deserve. Y'all don't want to play hard. Eat this candy and ice cream. Y'all just want it easy. Like, it was crazy, man.
Did y'all eat it?
But he knew how to tap those buttons. You know what I mean? Like, it was all a mind game, but it worked.
Yeah.
Guys was pissed off. I said, what? Some dude was getting scoops of the ice cream. I'm like, oh. It was crazy. It was crazy. But that was him, man. That was him.
Hey, that's a good one, man. Sheesh. I don't know if I would have been able to turn down ice cream. All my folks know I'm an ice cream connoisseur, man. I'd be like, hey, you can step out the gym real quick. You know what I'm saying? Man. So I feel like as anybody who's played overseas, specifically in Europe, knows, you can get some tough coaches, man. Especially if you get a Serbian coach or some of these crazy coaches. Have you played for a coach since then that's been worse than Coach Knight as far as the intensity or like the MS that you might receive, whatever, or Coach Knight still take the cake?
Ah, man. Yeah, I played for a couple that have been really intense. I haven't played for any coaches who get personal though, as much as I experienced in college. Usually, coaches overseas, they're gonna be intense, they're gonna be on you, they're gonna yell, but they don't get personal.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave your parents out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel
so
like that's crazy. College coaches really have no bounds. I think
no boundaries.
They have no boundaries, bro. They gonna MF you and tell you no good. You be like,
yeah. They're gonna attack your character, everything. They're gonna talk about your girlfriend. Like it gets bad. It gets bad.
Sheesh, man. Hey, listen, man. Coach Knight is a legend, regardless, though, man. Like I said, he got the best out of a lot of players. So, saying nothing but some tough love. Nothing but some tough love.
No, exactly.
So before we get into kind of your overseas career and things like that, man, I want to touch on one of the things that truly makes you unique. And I think that a lot of folks are probably interested in too. Obviously, you ever experienced to play for, now I know I'm gonna butcher the name. It's Bosnia, and how do you say the second part of that?
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
All right. Learn something new. So Bosnia-Herzegovina in international competition. How before we get into the actual competition, right? How does an American, who from Florida, takes to get a Bosnian passport to get that opportunity? What does that process look like to be able to play for them in international competition?
So when I was in Sweden, I had a Bosnian coach, Coach Bosnic. I played for him for 3 years, and we won 3 championships together. Had a great relationship. Still have a great relationship to this day. And he ended up getting the national team job. And in Europe, you can naturalize one player per team. Every team gets one naturalization. So he just chose me to be that guy that he wanted to naturalize to be a part of the team.
You could just choose a guy
So
to get naturalized?
yes, you get one spot per team. So just being the relationship we had, and I think that position was a position that they needed to cover. It's just a blessing that I was able to get that experience, man. It was crazy experience playing in the Eurobasket and representing, Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was a dream come true to be a part of that, play against NBA guys, play against Luka Doncic. Yeah. Man, so, I still think about that to this day. It was amazing. So I'm glad I did get that opportunity, and still got a lot of love for for my teammates on that team, and everybody I was able to play with.
So what are some of your favorite moments or matchups, games that you can recall from your experience playing with Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Oh man, just like I said, the game against Slovenia, we were able to win. I think it was like their first loss, and I don't know how many games, but they were the defending Eurobasket champions, and they hadn't lost until we beat them. So that was a great experience. And then just being there and being like my first game in Bosnia, it was great atmosphere. Those people love basketball. They know the game, and just the love that they give is just tremendous. So, it's definitely an experience I'll never forget.
Now, when you matched up against Luka, what year was that?
That was last summer.
So he's already been in the league for a couple years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Proven.
Yeah. So what was that matchup like, into that game? Because I know he goes, I seen some highlights. I never watching the games in person, but he'd be going federal in the actual competition. So what was that matchup like as far as matching up against? Cause I feel like most guys, we've had a couple guys on the podcast that played against Luka when he was like in Spain before he came to the league. And I was like, oh, did you know he was going to be good, this and that? But it's different playing against this version of Luka now. He's been in the NBA. He got the bag with him in the conference as well. So, what was that matchup like?
Man, it was crazy because I didn't realize how big he was. Like he's 6'7", I don't know, 240. He's a huge guard, and with the skills that he has, like he's unstoppable. I think we caught him on a bad day. Don't get me wrong. We were throwing a lot of guys at him. Who were trying to be physical with them, who were, picking them up full court. Because that's all you really can do is try to make it as tough as possible and try to wear them out. But I think we caught him we got lucky and caught him on a bad day, man. I guarded him a couple times. He pushed me to the side, made a lay. I was like, okay, this is for real. But it's different. But yeah, I mean, he's a great player. His IQ, I think, is what sets him apart. His passing ability, the fact that he can pull up from anywhere, he has a ball on a string, his strength, he's the complete package. So he's just going to continue to get better. And it was a great matchup, man. Like, and he makes his teammates better. I think that's what people don't realize. He's just finding guys in the perfect place, and he draws so much attention that, and he's always making the right play. So.
That's a crazy matchup, but even better that y'all got the win. You know what I'm saying? So you always got that notch in the cap. First time opportunity to team up with Jusuf Nurkic, with that Herzegovina team, man. So what's that experience like playing with him? Obviously, he's one of the best centers in the league, today. So what's the opportunity like being able to play with a guy like that and have him as a teammate?
Man, it was amazing. Really humble guy, great guy. It's crazy because I played I was playing in Slovenia my first year in Europe, and he was like a young kid on the sideline that was trying to make his way and play with the older guys. And I think was dealing with some injuries, and we would always see him on the side working out. Never knew he would end up being the player he is today. But man, he is like one of the strongest guys I've seen on a basketball court. Playing against France in the qualifiers and seeing him go up against Rudy Gobert and some of the bigs that France has, and he was just having his way. I was like, wow. Like, dude he's a problem, man. He's a problem, and he's super skilled, light on his feet. So yeah, it's just like you see the difference of talent when you see those type of guys. And it's just it was great to see and experience that. And really smart guy, great passer as well, great feel for the game. So it was cool to play with him.
And you mentioned that game against France. I was going to ask you about that. You guys beat them as well in the World Cup qualifiers. The team with, obviously you mentioned Gobert, Elliot Kobo, who just won Monaco, and a plethora of other guys. You talking about that game, because I don't know if they had the rest of the NBA guys, if Fournier and all those guys were out there or not, but I know France has come a long way, man. Obviously, they lost in the gold medal game, this year to Team USA. So talk about that game, matching up against those guys, man, and just what that whole experience was like as well.
Man, it was great because my wife is from France, and I was talking a little trash to her. But yeah, her family was watching the game. I had to, it felt good to get a W against France.
Yes.
But yeah, man, those guys are great. Fournier was out there, Akobo, Albasi, who's a great point guard. They have their roster is loaded. They got, EuroLeague, NBA. They have all type of guys on the roster. And I think we kind of took them by surprise coming to Bosnia. I don't know. They expected us to come out, with that type of energy and for that atmosphere to be like that. But yeah, man, it was a great win, and I'm glad we were able to do it in front of the home crowd fans. So I had a lot of people coming up to me after the game saying, "Oh, that was one of the greatest wins in our history," and like just to be a part of that is crazy. So
that's a crazy experience, man. That's legendary right there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What type of advantages or opportunities do you think has come from you being able to do that, play international competition? Because I feel like, especially in Europe, man, you play in that international competition. I mean, that shows a lot, and you play really well in that and in that opportunity that you had with them. So what opportunities or what advantage would you say has kind of come from that post international competition, or even if it's just, experiences, things that you're taking with your game, but what would you say that's done for your career since being able to have that opportunity to play with them in the international competition?
Man, I think more than anything, it just gives you that confidence, because it just, as being like a smaller guard, and sometimes you can get overlooked. I know that's happened to me in my career. You get overlooked, or some people don't give you the credit or the respect you think you deserve. Being able to play against the top players and NBA guys, it kind of validates yourself. You can validate yourself, even if nobody gives you the credit or whatever. It just let me know that I can play with these guys. And, that meant everything to me, to be on the same floor as those level of players, and to hold my own. It meant everything to me. And so that was big for me. And then, of course, yeah, like, being on that stage and, performing, and, for me, I think it helped me get to Turkey. My next contract was Turkey. So I think those guys saw that, and, they were like, okay, he's our guy. So that, that was something. But yeah, man, I think it can definitely help you if you get a chance to play, on a big stage like that. It can help you, start your career off, depending on your situation or what stage you're at in your career. Definitely, help you take off.
Sure. Now, the last thing I'll ask as far as international competition before we get into the pro journey, man, I feel like as an outsider looking in, right, I'm watching guys and I see, like, for example, Lauri Markkanen he was like a regular pedestrian with the Cavs. He came over to Finland, was going federal, got traded to the Jazz, NBA All-Star first year. Like, people always want to make jokes about Dennis Schroeder and this and that, but he goes federal when he plays for Germany. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the best players. He look crazy out there. Nurkic, who's most people say, oh, he's a good big, but having his way with Rudy Gobert, and I was coming. Why do you think that is that guys like kind of just become, I don't even say different player, but just I guess flip that switch when it comes to international competition. They may look like a whole different player than you might see them in their NBA season or even with EuroLeague season and stuff like that.
Man, because they are a different player when they play for their national team. Like they have a different role. You know what I mean? Nurkic plays for the Blazers, but he's not the man on that team. It's Dame's team. You know what I mean? But when he comes to Bosnia, he's the man. So he has a bigger role and he has to fill that void. And that's the same thing with Lauri Markkanen and Dennis Schroeder. Like Dennis Schroeder, he's the captain of the German national team. It's his team, and that's his role to be the guy. And, when you're the guy, when you have the green light, when you have the freedom to do whatever you want, like your confidence is way higher. You play different. Your swag is different. You know what I mean? So everything is just, is maximized to, you filling those shoes and you filling that void of being the guy. I feel like there's a lot of guys in the NBA that if you give them the keys, they can perform. Yeah. They can get you 20, 25 a night. But, some guys are just playing their role.
Facts. Hey, like you said, man, dudes they walk in that gym a little different. They swag a little different walking into that gym when they go FIBA play. They swag.
Absolutely.
That's tough, man. So kind of changing the gears a little bit, I want to get into your pro career, man. And I feel like just doing research on your career, you mentioned like first couple of years you kind of played in a bunch of different places before you eventually find your footing in Sweden. It was, from there I was able to get into France and kind of your career took off from there. But talk about kind of those beginning years of your career, right? Like trying to establish yourself, trying to, just get your footing started as a pro. Like talk about those early years and kind of what those first few years like trying to just find your footing, in the overseas game.
Man, I almost gave up.
Yeah.
It was tough, man. Like I'm talking about this with my wife the other day and just reminiscing on those days as far as just having to adjust from college to Europe. Not really, like I came from running a motion offense in college to trying to run a pick and roll in Europe, and it just doesn't translate. So I had to figure it out, man. And that's where I think loving the game comes into play because I love the game so much. I'm gonna figure it out. Like I have no other choice, no other options. Like that's what I was feeling. Like I don't want to do anything else but play basketball. So I had to figure it out. And my first job in Slovenia, I got cut. And I had to go back to the drawing board, went to the ABA in South Carolina. Actually, Coach Chris Beard was the coach out there. He was my assistant coach at Tech. And finished the year out there, didn't get any more jobs in Europe that year. And then went to Ecuador for a summer gig just to try to get back on and get some numbers and some film. So I'm in Ecuador practicing on outside courts.
Yep.
I'm like, man, I was just at Texas Tech like a year ago. Now I'm outside playing. Like it was just like a culture shock, man. I was really tripping. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And all this is going through your head, but it's like, like I said, I love the game so much. I didn't want to give up, but you have people in your ear like, oh, you can make that money over here. Like, what are you doing? Like,
man.
So that's something I had to go through, and I had to hear on a daily basis. But if you believe in something, as much as I did, I just wasn't going to give it up, man. So, a lot of prayer, a lot of belief, and I started getting some breaks. I really got lucky, man. Like some guys got hurt in Switzerland. I took over his spot for a month. It was a month contract. Played 3 good games, only 3. Then Sweden called. Somebody else got hurt. They need somebody to fill in. I'm on a tryout contract. I think it was like $1,600 a month. like they got me staying in like a hostel.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm just pushing. Um, and we ended up winning the championship that year. Signed again to go back. Won another championship. Went to Hungary. Got cut from there. Had to go back to Sweden. Finished the season out there, and then that's when I went to France, and everything started to, take off from there. But yeah, the first couple years before Sweden were really, really tough. I remember thinking about giving up, and just when you can't catch a break, and when you feel like maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not good enough. You start having that doubt, you know what I mean? And just had to, really my faith is what kept me going, man. So
Man, I feel like that's just like that's so important to hear, man, because I feel like it's crazy. God works in mysterious ways. Because I feel like the last episode I had is dropping. It should drop today. It was with Stan Okoye, and it's wild because I met Stan. I met you on like a Thursday in Milan, and I met Stan on Sunday in Milan, and we both
okay.
ever since. Man, it's crazy. I just had him on the podcast, and he had a similar situation. Man, he was like he went over. He came from VMI, military school, used to everything kind of being, business, right? Goes overseas to Greece, money on time, don't got a car, everything not what it's supposed to be. Leaves Greece, goes to Israel. Wild story unfolds, gets cut in Israel. He's like, man, like I just was in 2 different countries just in November, and I'm cut. I'm home. He said he started getting his resume together. Like, man, I'm about to just give up on basketball, man. I'm about to get a job. He had freshmen at VMI, like, yeah, man, I could have got you a job here. All you had to do was just show up to the interview. Like, damn, I make the wrong choice. You know what I'm saying? He ends up going to like a second division team in Australia, kind of finds that love again, and then ends up getting a job in Italy and kind of just works his way up from there. But he talked about kind of hitting that wall. He's like, man, I'm about to get my resume ready and get a real job, I'm about to quit. And kind of going to Australia, which is kind of the same as you doing the ABA in Ecuador. I remember, man, I was in Costa Rica, same vibe, man. I missed my rookie year because of COVID. I had a shitty agent, had to fire my agent, had to get a whole new agent. So I missed my whole rookie year, had to kind of start fresh. So I'm going to Costa Rica for a summer gig just to like get some film. We practicing on the concrete. My knees hurting, hips is hurting, back hurting crazy. Like it's wild out there in Latin America, man. But just to kind of film. And it's crazy even to hear this story now, bro. I mean, we talked a little bit off air before. I was telling you about how I came out here to Japan and kind of do 3x3 and then 5-on-5, and the situation was kind of rocky in 5-on-5. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go back for 3-on-3. And you had those moments of doubt. We like, damn, bro, like, did I do it up? You know what I'm saying? Is it worth it? And I feel like, God just works in mysterious ways because I feel like hearing these stories just even it inspires me to just keep going, like, not up, man, because you never know what can happen and what you might be able to fall into if you just don't quit. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely had those same thoughts. So I want to ask you, right, like, what were you telling yourself in those moments, right? When you're thinking about giving it up, when you're thinking about quitting, when you're going on the tryout deals and you're like, man, like I could be making more than this working a 9 to 5 at the crib. Like, how did you kind of going, right? For somebody who might be listening to this right now and is kind of on that verge of making that decision, you know what I'm saying? What were you telling yourself in those moments?
Man, like I said, I just prayed a lot, man. And I remember, okay, so the first time I got cut was in Slovenia. Then I go to Ecuador, and I feel like I'm about to get cut there. So I'm like, man, like I'm like, this is the last straw. If I get cut in Ecuador, like I'm gonna have to hang it up. Like I might not be good enough to play overseas.
Right.
And I remember it would have been the last preseason game was coming up. And I just remember like getting down on my knees, man, and just like crying out, bro, like to God and asking him to just not give up on me.
Man.
And I was like, man, like this is really what I want to do. Just please help me. Like I just remember, please help me. That's what I kept asking him. And like, in the preseason games, I wasn't even going off. I wasn't like, and we're not playing against crazy competition. You know what I mean? So that they're probably looking at me like, this guy is trash. Like, he can't even score above 20.
Right.
And I remember the next game after, all this happened, I ended up going out there the first half, had 2 points. I'm like, man, I'm about to go home. I'm about to go home. The second half comes, bro. I end up scoring 36 points in the second half. And I just remember like just looking up to the heavens and being like, thank you. And I ended up from there is like when everything started to fall into the right place, man. And like God is real, man. Like, and if you want it bad enough, he'll help you out. He'll help you out. And it was just confirmation. Like sometimes you need that confirmation. Like God is real. God is real. You know what I mean? And I have so many things that have happened in my life that he just confirmed like I'm here. Like, you know what I mean? And one of those things is moving to Texas. Didn't want to move to Texas. Ended up moving here anyway. Ended up winning a state championship, and that's how I got the college scholarship to go to Texas Tech. And there's just been so many things where he's been in my corner throughout my life. I just, I'm gonna always praise him and give him the glory, man.
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. So we're gonna get back to the pro career, but while we're here, man, I definitely want to expound upon that a little bit, man, because I feel like literally I'm in the same boat, like legit, and I feel like it's crazy because I literally just posted a post last night about this, and I was like, yo, like one of the things that has helped me so much being overseas. Cause it's a lonely life over here, man. I don't have the pleasure of being married like yourself, man. We have wifey come visit. I'm a single guy, I'm a twin brother too. So I had my twin my
Okay.
entire life, like identical twins, like we like this.
Mm-hmm.
So these past 2 years, going on 3 this year, without my twin, has been the most isolating times in my entire life. And but it's crazy because like I feel like, recently just going through the ups and downs of overseas, thinking about, damn, why my career hasn't gone the way I wanted to go. Why did I have to have a messed up agent when I first came out? Why did I had to miss my rookie year? Why did I have to come to a situation where I didn't really play that much and didn't get opportunities? Like, why me? Why me? And I feel like you question God a lot. But I feel like recently, in the midst of probably, this is I thought the most confusion or, question I had was at that rookie when I was at home. But this is probably the second most it's confusion as far as, all right, like, where is my career going from here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, right now, right? But I feel like despite of that, I have so much peace right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not worried about it. I just feel like, and the reason for that is because I've just dove into like my faith and just putting trust in God. He's gonna work it out one way or another.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's been crazy to me because it's like, I'm not worried about it. And my faith has been something that I feel like has grown so much as I've been over here away from. I haven't been, obviously when I was in LA, I was going to church on Sundays, but I haven't really been able to consistently get into a church in some years, right? But I feel like my so much. But I want to ask you, like, how have you been able to kind of just maintain your faith and keep the faith while being overseas, especially because being overseas in Europe and in Japan for sure, it's not a lot of people who are believing in God over here because it's not their way of, they don't, especially in Japan and Asia, they don't really grow up that way. You know what I'm saying? So how have you been able to kind of continue to, keep your faith in God and make that a main factor in your life and in your career, being away from home for so long?
I think for me, man, is just the way I was brought up.
Yeah.
Just those roots.
Yeah.
Those roots, man. Those roots are so deep for me that you have your seasons where you stray away from God and you might feel super apart from God and you're not praying as much. But for me, those times I felt lost.
Yeah.
And it's like when I start feeling like that, I'm like, okay, I got to get my stuff together. I got to start praying again. I got to, just for me, prayer is really big because, like you said, it's hard to find churches overseas. And I just try to pray every night. I try to pray as much as I can throughout the day. And that's what helps me feel close and just keep my faith high. And I just feel like for me, man, like I said, the roots are deep, and it's hard for me. It's impossible for me to just forget what God has done for me. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, just the way I was brought up. My mom has a lot of faith, and she instilled that in me at a young age, and it's been like that ever since.
Yeah. Nah, amen to that, man. Shout out to to my mom, my grandma, God rest both of their souls, man, because I grew up in church, both of them. You know, I feel that's
Mm-hmm.
with me even now, man. But I think that's important to talk about, man, because I feel like, you know, overseas can get super treacherous, man, as far as the ups and downs, getting cut.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you go through a lot over here. You mentioned, like, even thinking you about to get on, going hungry, getting cut again. You like, damn, like, what's going
Yeah.
on, man? You have to find some type of grounding in something. You know what I'm saying? I think that my faith has been able to be what's grounding me and being able to keep me going over here, man. So I'm even just thinking about this conversation. It's just a blessing to me right now to just be able to hear this and have this conversation. And just get that confirmation that now, like, you know, you're doing the right thing. You just got to keep going and keep pushing, man, because stuff can change, you know. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you next. When do you feel like you first was able to, when did you first feel like, all right, like my career is changing for the good, it's going in the right direction now after getting cut and going to Ecuador and going hungry and getting cut? When did that, I guess, when did the tide turn for you where you feel like, you know what, like, all right, like my career is finally going in an upward trajectory, you know, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to continue to, you know, fight and scratch and claw and look over my shoulder as somebody gonna come to that office, you know what I'm saying? Like, when did that change for you?
Bro, what's crazy is that I am still paranoid about getting cut. Like that will always be with me after what I've been through. And I think that's what kind of helps me and going forward is that like I try to work so hard to where I will never have to experience getting cut again because it's a terrible feeling. You know what I mean? It's stressful. And I think that happened for a reason because if that would have never happened, maybe I wouldn't have had that sense of urgency that I have now. And but to your question, I feel like I would say because not up until my second year in Sweden, I had never played a full season. So my second year in Sweden, when I was able to like play there all year, complete one season,
How many
and
years
we
was
won
in your pro career? How many years in was that?
that was year 3.
It's
So my
crazy.
third year is when I finally played a full year for one
So
team.
crazy.
And
I'm in the same boat. I have yet to complete a full season. Like, I've been in like,
yeah, bro.
wow. So this story is so crazy to me, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. You
No,
good?
no, you good. You good. It's just, for me, that meant a lot to me that I was able to complete a season. We were able to win. And I felt like, okay, now, I'm where I need to be. And now, I'm, like you said, on that upward trajectory. And yeah, it's been a crazy ride, man. Crazy ride.
Nah, that's something else, man. So I know you, like you said, you won a championship in Sweden, and then you were able to kind of get to France and kind of, you know, work your way up from there. Um, it's crazy to think about, right? You talk about not being able to complete a full season until your third year, and you know, finally getting able to get on. And now you look at your career, and you've been able to play some of the top leagues in the world, international competition with NBA guys. How do you reflect on that, like looking back, right? And you know where you've been able to get to now versus you know how rocky it was when you first started, man. Do you ever look back and be like, damn, man, like it's crazy to even be here right now? And like, how do you look back on that time period? You know, when you think back on it, like how do you reflect on, you know, what you've been able to accomplish up to this point and just sticking it through?
Man, it's a weird feeling looking back and seeing everything that you've been through to get to this point. And man, to be honest, I reflect sometimes, but I try not to because I think I'm worried about the future and like how many years I got left, and I'm trying to make the most of my time now. But yeah, man, it's crazy to look back and see um where I've come from and just all the things I've been through. But all those things that you go through make you who you are today. And like you said, what you're going through and the doubt that you're going through and all of that is going to shape who you are. And just your work ethic, and it's going to make you smart. It's going to make you sharper. So yeah, man, I look back and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for everything that's happened. Because without all those things, without getting cut, without going to Ecuador and, experiencing that and just being in certain situations, it's really made me a smarter player. It's made me a smarter person, a better man, and all those things happen for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say has been your most successful, your most rewarding? Like, if you like, oh, this is my best season when it comes to like playing in Europe, what would that year be? Or I know you played in Australia too, so you can include that one in there if that.
Okay. I would say, I would say Australia is definitely up there. Is definitely up there. I feel like that was probably my most productive year individually. We weren't able to win a lot of games, but individually, I think that's one of my best seasons. Like maybe statistically, maybe this year as well was up there, and maybe my year in my second year in Chalon in France is probably up there. But one of those years.
How would you compare playing in the NBA to playing in Europe as far as like, stylistically on the court basketball? How would you compare the two, styles of play? Because I know NBA has a lot of talent. They have NBA guys out there too, galore, like you can see in Europe and stuff. So how would you compare those two leagues?
NBA in Europe?
No, sorry, the NBL, Australia.
The NBL.
Yeah, the Australian league.
Yeah. The NBL is definitely more up and down. I remember when I got there and the coach was like, "You're not shooting enough." I was like, "What? What do you mean?" I'm like, I thought I'm used to shooting maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 shots per game. He's like, "No, I want you to shoot 20 shots." He's like, "I need you to get them up and I need you to be aggressive." And I was like, "Well, I wasn't used to it." Yeah. And just the way they play out there is just really fast pace. Coach is gonna give you the green light. So I had to adjust, and once I got adjusted, it was fun. You know what I mean? So definitely more more similar to the NBA, I would say, as far as the way they play. Very athletic league. The local players are really good. The Australians are really good, and yeah, man, it was definitely fun out there. The people out there are tremendous. They're super nice and kind and great people to be around. So I enjoyed my time out there for sure.
That's dope. That's dope, man. Now, I want to talk about just kind of your game individually, right? Like I know you're a guy who can shoot the ball. That's one of the things that you're well known for. But I feel like being a smaller guard who can shoot sometimes is like a gift and a curse. Because on the one hand, they'd be like, you can score and you can fill it up, but it's like, all right, well, he's not really tall. So can he be a natural two-man? But then it's like, well, he's really in a point guard's body. So like sometimes it can hurt you a little bit as well. So for you, how have you been able to, I guess, kind of break through that and, reach, the levels of basketball that you've been able to reach despite your size and people being like, well, what position is he really? Is he a one? Is he a two? Right? Because I feel like that's kind of the stigma that a lot of smaller guards face when it comes to pro basketball. I was trying to put you in a box in the category. Well, if you're not this height, you got to play this way. You know what I'm saying? So how have you been able to kind of combat that and, be able to play for as long as you have?
Man, I just think if you perform, there's nothing they can say. They don't care how tall you are. You know what I mean? Like I remember coming to Sweden and he's like, my coach called my agent and was like, he's not 6 foot. He's not 5'10". Right. They're like, he has short arms. But like none of that matters if you can play. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing he can say if I'm putting the ball in the basket, if I'm producing. So you just got to go out there and prove people wrong, man. Everybody's always going to have something to say about you as a player. Or you're not tall enough, or you're not fast enough. He's not explosive enough. But you just like as a little guard, for me, I've always been short, so I know how to figure it out. You know what I mean? I've always had to figure it out. So, I think it's just a matter. I think I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm one of the best shooters in the world. That's how I feel about myself. That's how confident I am in myself. So when I go out there, I expect to be able to produce, and that's just the confidence I have from the work I put in. And I feel like any short guard or little guard out there, if you can play, you got to put the work in. You got to put more work in than anybody else because, like you said, they want to put you in a box. They want to tell you you can't do things, but you're gonna have to. Our position is the hardest to play in Europe. To be able to be a scoring guard, you have to be able to also get people involved. You have to be, and you have to score efficiently. You can't be out there just jacking.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Because then, he's a bad teammate. He's selfish.
Right.
So you have to be efficient. You have to pick your spots. You have to shoot at the right times. And I just think that comes from putting the work in to be able to, last this long. I feel like, you have to have a work ethic. You have to take the game seriously. And, you got to.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough, but it's what it is.
Now, you said you had to perform. That's one thing you said. You had to produce, right? So I want to ask you, what does that really look like, though? Is that because I feel like you could say, because we've heard the stories about, I was averaging 25 and they cut me, right? So I feel like, does that look like, facilitating? And for a guy who does, you play point guard overseas or you play shooting guard? Or is it kind of like, because I feel like teams be like, well, I want you to come in and be a pass first point guard and set the table for others, but that might not really be your game if you're a scoring guard. So like, because produce in one person's eyes could be like, I'm out there and I'm getting 27, I'm producing,
Mm-hmm.
but the team might be like, nah, we want you to get 10 assists. You know what I'm saying? So how do you quantify what producing looks like for a guy like that's playing your role? It's kind of a give and take.
For me, I think a lot goes to, you got to be in the right situation.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, if you're a scoring guard and your agent tells you, hey, this team needs a pass first point guard, like, no, don't go there. You know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in that situation to where you're going to have somebody asking you to be somebody you're not. I think a lot goes on the agent where he should know your game. He should know what type of player you are. He should talk to the coach. He should, ask those questions. And you should also, if you're able to talk to the coach, ask those questions of what type of player do you need? Like, how do you see me fitting in your system? Like, these are things you need to ask. Those are things you need to find out before you go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're not in a situation where now you're trying to be somebody else. It's not going to work.
Right. So you're a vet. So you've been through it all. So I want to ask you this. Number one, have you ever received a job thinking, all right, that might be cool, talk to the coach and been like, nah, this ain't really my fit. I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that one. And then number two, if you have been able to do that, or if you are in that position, I guess advice for guys who may be coming behind you, right? Like, it's tough, man, because when you at home, agents say, I got an offer for you. Oh yeah, you need I can do that. Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Right, because you might be like, man, listen, I'm on the couch, so anything is better.
Absolutely. I know, I understand. And I understand
that, right?
those situations. For sure. I understand those situations. And I've been, like you said, I've been in a situation where a coach told me, yeah, we want you to do this and do that. And when I got there, it was totally different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've been on both sides. But for me, if you are in a situation where like you've been on a couch or you've been sitting for so long and you can't be picky about what you take, you got to go there with the open mind. You got to go there and listen to what he wants, and you're gonna have to try to adjust your game. You have to, if he wants you to do something, you're gonna have to do it, man. It's what he wants, and if you want to be on the floor, then you got to adjust. But it's not ideal, But like I said, I know that happens, and it's a tough situation, but in those situations, man, you just gotta adjust your game and try to do the best you can.
Yeah, that's real.
It's tough.
Real.
It's tough.
It's definitely tough, though. It's definitely tough. I would say for a guy who might be, in your shoes, right, a smaller guard, come out of college, trying to work their way up, overseas ranks, first, second year. What advice would you have to those guys who may be trying to kind of find their footing overseas and, trying to have a long career like yourself? What do you think is the most important piece of advice that you can give to somebody coming up?
Man, for me, it's always been work, man. Just put in the work, be consistent, man. And a lot of times, man, guys don't understand that being a good teammate goes a long way. you know, being positive, being somebody who, you know, your teammates want to be around and play with. Like that goes a long way, man. That can all that being a good guy can get you a job. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, having those intangibles, being a leader, those are just, you know, qualities that, you know, coaches like, and they can always go a long way. You know, a lot of people don't realize when you play somewhere and you looking to get a job for the next year, those teams who are interested in you are gonna make phone calls. They're gonna make phone calls. They're gonna ask about your character. They're gonna ask what kind of guy is he? Does he like to go out? Is he late to practice? Does he talk back? Is he a good teammate? Like, bro, you got to be when you're in Europe and when you're overseas. Like, you have to be a good guy. You have to be somebody who people want to play with, or you're not going to get a job. You're going to get a bad reputation, and people won't want to take a chance on you. No matter your talent, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you got to make sure that's, you know, you're on point with those things, and I think if you take care of all that, you should be good.
Gems for sure. I can definitely confirm that. I guess in the grand scheme of things, right? What would you say is the best part of playing overseas? And then what is the worst part, or most, I won't say worst, the most difficult part or most challenging part, I would say, about the job. So I feel like from my perspective, right, whenever I go back home to the States, people like, man, like, you're so blessed, man. You play in Japan, you get to travel the world, man. That's so cool. It's like, yeah, it is a blessing 1000%. You know, but it's also like, yo, you don't even know what we go through over here half the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Man.
From your experiences, what would you say is like your favorite part of the job, you know, over the years? And then what's been the most difficult part to overcome and come to grips with?
Man, the best part, like, is traveling. You know, getting to see the world, getting to see different cultures. That's been probably the best part of playing overseas, and just getting to see the world. But the most challenging probably is, you know, you're in these places. You're in France. You're in Turkey. Man, you so tired after practice. You're not going to see anything in the city. You're not going anywhere. You staying in your apartment. You resting. You know, so I think those are the things that people don't see. They see you overseas and they think it's, you know, it's all gravy, but nah, we working hard, man. We put in the work where our bodies hurt, we're mentally tired. You know what I mean? We go through a lot over there. So I think the most challenging part is also, you know, being alone. I was alone for a lot of those years, and, you know, you away from family, you get homesick. You know, it's especially when you're going through tough times, you losing games, you're not playing good. You know what I mean? You got to come back home to nobody. You ain't got nobody to talk to. Oh man, it can get tough, man. And you know, those are the times, like I said, I just rely heavily on my faith, and get you through those tough times. But yeah, man, it can get challenging, but it's definitely a blessing, and I'm definitely lucky to be able to do what I do, for sure.
Sure, man. It's funny you say that too, man, because I feel like people be thinking overseas like a paid vacation sometimes.
Right. I'm like, nah.
I ain't no I'm not a tourist. It's crazy, man.
Facts.
I feel like when tourists come to Japan and they go, where have you gone? I'm like, well, I'm going on the road to these cities that have teams, and so I've been to this city, this city, this city. Like, you've been everywhere. I'm like, I mean, I've been there, but I ain't seen nothing. I ain't been
exactly. You in the hotel and you back on the road.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I've been there technically, but I don't get the experience, man. I've had people always get that confused.
Not at all.
So this is something that I wanted to ask you, man. This is the first time I've had a guest on the podcast that I can ask this question to, man. So I gotta take advantage of it.
Okay.
You've already mentioned twice, you know, your wife, and you've shouted her out twice, and you obviously got the ring on your finger now. You know, me, I'm 27, man. I'm a young guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm single. I haven't been able to find wifey yet, man. And I feel like it's a challenge to try to date, man, while you're overseas. Because number one,
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Like we're foreigners, half the time we won't speak the language. So it's like, man, I'm trying to figure this out, right? So for you, man, how are you able to kind of like navigate that, man, and find your person that you've been able to do life with, man? Because I feel that's one thing that people do not talk about, man. You really gotta. I know so many people to this day, man, who like my homies that played overseas for 8, 9 years, and they still single. They come home at 30-something years old because you really have to put your life. You put your life on hold when you're playing overseas. When it comes to like your career after basketball, what you want to do as far as your career, focus is getting out of the college at 22 and starting jobs. You know, basketball, and you didn't make enough money where you can retire. You got to get a job. You might be hopping into that workforce at 35. You know what I'm saying? I know people kind of talk about that. People don't really talk about the relationship side of it as well, man. It's like sometimes you might be playing for 10 years and it's like, damn, you know what I'm saying? A lot of lonely nights. You feel me? So for you, how have you been able to kind of navigate that, man, throughout playing for so long and being able to get to the point where you have been able to, be married and stuff?
Man, it was it's been tough. Like you said, I've talked to a lot of guys, and it's like if you don't really meet somebody before you come overseas, I know a lot of guys who didn't, and now they're still single, like going into their 30s.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like if you don't meet somebody overseas, when are you really gonna meet somebody? During the summer? No, probably not. You know what I mean?
For 2 months, and it's like, all right, bye. I'm
Yeah,
going
2 months. Yeah, in the summertime, you're just trying to have fun. But let me turn on this light one second.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting a little dark. Sorry about that.
You good?
So I feel like it's very tough for guys to be overseas and to try to find somebody if they haven't already. For me, I was lucky to meet my wife overseas. I got lucky, met her on a dating app. You might have to get on that dating app, you know what I mean? So, I was lucky. I met a good one, man, and been rocking with her ever since. But yeah, man, it's a tough situation. But I think, if you're really ready for that commitment, man, there's a lot of great women overseas, that if you're over there, if you're ready for commitment, they're over there, they're everywhere, man, and around the world. So it's just about, I think guys wanting that commitment. I know I've talked to some guys who are like, man, I don't know if I can meet a wife overseas. And, that's kind of, for me and my wife, we actually went through that because of the culture. She didn't know if her parents would accept, me being American, me not speaking French, just the different things, and like American culture, they're not used to that. Yeah. So a lot of people, if it's unknown, they don't know how to react to that.
Right.
So that was definitely a roadblock that we were up against, but ended up, working out. I love her parents. They love me, and it's just been a blessing. But I think a lot of, if you overseas, man, you just can't have that fear of meeting somebody, man. You just got to go for it. There's a lot of great women overseas, and I'm sure if you're ready for that, you can find somebody.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big emphasis. If you're ready for that, you really want that. A lot of folks, it ain't.
Yeah, for sure. You got to be ready for sure.
How have you been able to kind of maintain that while you're playing? You mentioned, she's French, and you're playing around the world, different countries every year almost. You know what I'm saying? So, being married, like that's a commitment, on both of you guys. Not just yourself being able to move. Now you have another person that you bring into that picture. So, how have you been able to kind of maintain that? As a pro athlete and meeting her overseas and trying to now intertwine her into your life?
Yeah, man, it's tough because I know, you meet somebody overseas, they have a job. Are they going to be able to be flexible enough to move with you if you leave? Like, there's a lot of, variables. So with her, she was able to, she had to quit her job to come with me in Turkey. Yeah. So, that's something that we talked about, and we decided that was the best option, to be together. Now I don't know if that's for everybody, you know what I mean? But for us, it works. So, yeah, man, she had to drop everything, and, she trusts me enough to move with me and, to follow me. So, yeah, man, it's a big responsibility for me, I feel like, but I'm ready for that. You know what I mean? And, it means everything to have her there when I come home from practice or a game. That long distance is tough. and
Man.
it's I wasn't trying to do that long distance for long, so I need her with me. So yeah, we had to go ahead and make that move.
Hey, listen, man. I feel like you giving all the young blood listening to this hope. You know what I'm saying? Because we like, it be getting grim sometimes. You be like, damn, I'm about to be 35, single. You know what I'm saying? So, it's good to have a positive example of somebody who's been able to make it work and find their partner. You know what I'm saying? Because even like I said myself, man, it'd be tough. You'd be like, hey, I'm 27. I just turned 27.
Man, you got time, man. You got time, bro. You got time.
Say no more, man. Say no more, man. Hey, listen, appreciate that, my boy. So we got some quick hitters, man, before we get you on out of here, man. I know, like I said, we had some great conversation, man. So we're gonna keep it rolling, and get you out of here with a couple quick hitters, man. But first thing I want to ask you is, give me your top 5 favorite cities in Europe, from 5 to 1, as far as favorite that you've been to live or play, all the above, all encompassing. What's your top 5 favorite cities?
Okay. I'm gonna have to go with Milan is definitely in there. I don't know in what order. Can I just give you 5? Do I have to put them in order?
Also, yeah, we need them in order. So stand, put them in order. 5 to 1.
Okay. I have to go Stockholm, number 5.
That is a deep cut. That's a deep cut. I'm gonna need you to elaborate on that one after we finish the list.
Okay. Yeah, Stockholm 5. Where else have I been? Okay, Moscow. Number 4.
Russia. Ooh.
Yeah, Moscow, number 4. Number 3. Man, number 3, I would have to say probably Istanbul. Istanbul, number 3. Number 2, probably Madrid. And number 1, Paris.
Wow. So Milan not in the top 5.
Nah.
Wow.
Because I wasn't there long enough. But it was a great city, don't get me wrong. But yeah, Stockholm, bro, for me in the summertime and I wasn't in Milan in the summertime. So
yeah, so talk about Stockholm.
I wasn't.
That's not a city that comes up often. Stockholm was not a city that comes up often.
Because I don't think a lot of people been there. So for me, man, it's beautiful in the winter as well, but in the summertime, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, man, and great architecture. It's just great vibes too. It's a really nice city on the water, like it's beautiful. So yeah, I recommend Stockholm to. If you haven't been there, you should go.
Yeah, I feel like so you went Stockholm 5. You went, was it
Moscow?
Moscow 4.
Yes.
You said Istanbul 3. What was Madrid was 2? Madrid was 2, and Paris was 1. That's so interesting, man. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can remember Stan's list, because Stan's was Madrid 5. Then he went with Madrid 5. I think he might have. I know 3 was. I think it was like Tel Aviv. So I think 4 might have been Paris. 1 Barcelona. 2 was Milan. Yeah, 1 Barcelona, 2 Milan, 3 Tel Aviv, 4 Paris, 5 Madrid. So those are kind of some of the bigger. I'm surprised Barcelona or Milan didn't make your top 5. Have you been to Barcelona before?
Nah, Barcelona is a nice city for me, but I went there one time. It was cool, but Madrid for me is much better.
What's you deal with Madrid? Talk to me about Madrid.
Man, Madrid is nice, man. I was able to stay in the city, like right in the center of the city when I was there. Man, it was during COVID. So, I mean, they don't care if it's COVID. Like, it was still things to do. Things were still open. We were still outside. Like, like it was a nice city, man. And it's one of those cities, it's a big city, great food, but it's not expensive. It wasn't expensive at all. So, I mean, it was a perfect setup, man. And, I mean, it was really nice.
Okay. All right. That's a great list. And I appreciate you got Moscow in there too, and Stockholm. Those are 2 cities I feel like I have not heard as far as being lit. Moscow, like Russia.
See, that's what people don't realize, man. Russia is like, even my parents, they're like, you sure you want to go to Russia? Like, yeah, man, Russia is a where I was at was Siberia, so it was super cold.
Oh my God.
And in Krasnoyarsk, it was super cold, man. But it was still like, I think maybe over 1 million people in the city. You know what I mean? So it was like, I remember they had some great restaurants. You know, there's nightlife there. It was, things to do. It was, during the season, you don't really have the time to do much. So you just want to go to nice restaurants and go out, every now and again. And, they had all that. So it was nice.
I appreciate that list. I appreciate that list for sure. So how about you can do top 3 or top 5 because it might be a little more difficult, but best food in Europe.
Best food. Ooh.
I told you that's the best part about playing overseas, man, is the food. I ain't gonna lie to you. Bro, Japanese food is top tier. I would
really
top tier, bro. Top tier.
I can imagine. I can imagine that.
That was one thing I was most worried about was the food. Like, what the when I got over here? Oh my God, shit, bro. So I want to know from you, like, what do you think has been your top? You can, like I said, whatever ones is either your top 5 or top 3. If you want to give us 5, you can give us 5. Or if it's easy, you can give us 3. But best food.
Best food. Man, I would say it's not in Europe, but Melbourne. When I was in Melbourne, Australia, oh goodness, great restaurants, great steak, great. That's one of the places that has had the best coffee.
Really?
Melbourne, Australia, the best coffee, hands down. Great restaurants, great steakhouses. It was really impressive. Where else? Madrid again, man. Great food, and like I said, not too expensive. Whatever you want, they got it. I'm gonna do top 3. What's the third one? That's tough. I probably have to say Istanbul, bro. Istanbul is
Turkish
really
food.
good. Yeah, man. Turkish food is really good.
Okay.
Really good. Yeah. They got Nusret out there.
They got what?
They got Salt Bay out there.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
So they got some great restaurants too.
Okay, that's a bet. I'm about to go to Istanbul, man. I've actually heard that's a top tier European city too.
Mm-hmm.
So my list.
Yeah.
Favorite matchup from the guard position, like somebody who's brought the best out of you. And then what do you remember about the matchup, or if you've seen this person multiple times, who would that person be?
That's a good question. Man, a lot of people, I've told this to, but man, Jerome Randall, man, tough, super tough guard. I remember playing against him in Australia. Lightning fast, pull up, doesn't miss, get to the basket, crazy handle. Probably one of my hardest matchups was Jerome Randall. And for me, man, being a small guard, I don't like playing against smaller guards. Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody smaller than me, bro, I hate it. So, yeah, man, he's a great player. Another guy that is another smaller guard than me was Jordan Crawford.
That went to Xavier?
I'm not sure if he.
Oh wait, it's 2 Jordan Crawfords. It's one that played with us in the league, and then there's the light skin one.
Light skin one. Okay. Little one. He played in Turkey last year. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Super quick as well, man. Just super fast, ball on a string, can shoot it, get to the basket. He's a tough matchup. Yeah, those 2. And I would have to say, when I was in France, I played against Rodrigue Beaubois.
Yep.
Tough. And he make it look easy.
Bro.
Yeah, bro. He don't even be sweating when he play. I'm like, yo, what is going on?
No sweat is crazy.
No sweat, just giving you buckets. I'm like, all right, he different.
Yeah, he had a cup of tea in the league. Tell me, when I was watching him when he was in the league, he was definitely tough.
Yeah,
sure. All right, who would you say is the best European player right now in Europe?
Yeah, I probably have to go with Misic from Ephes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's probably either him or Vezinkov, who he just won MVP in the EuroLeague from
Olympiacos?
Olympiacos. Yep,
Yep.
Olympiacos. Yep.
Okay.
I would say either of them, man. Vezinkov makes it look easy. He's another one that makes it look easy. Gets to his spots, great feel for the game, doesn't miss. You know, just it's
I had never
really
heard of
tough.
him until this year. I had never heard of him until this year, and I started seeing him. I'm like, EuroLeague MVP. Who is this? Because I heard about obviously Micic and Mirotic and
Mm-hmm.
all these guys, but I had never heard of him before. He's like that.
Yeah, he nice. He nice. Super nice. Yeah, does it all, man. Post up, shoots the ball like really well. Great cutter. Like I said, he makes it look easy.
Okay. Do you feel like because you played in with Nurkic, you played against Luka, you played against all these guys, Micic and Ephes. And then it's crazy because you look at the league now, you got Jokic just win the Finals MVP, Giannis, you know what I'm saying? Europeans kind of they taking over a little bit right now. I ain't gonna lie. Like, do you feel like they're catching up to Americans as far as like the gap, or do you feel like? And I feel like I'm not gonna lie. Also in Portugal, I low key felt like they don't defer to Americans. They feel like they as good or better than the Americans. Do you get
No,
that?
absolutely, bro. They are definitely narrowing the gap for sure. I mean, look at you got Giannis, you got Jokic, you got Luka, you got. I mean, the best players are European nowadays. Like, um, and I think like you've been over here, so you see the system.
Yeah,
Like they become pro at 15.
yeah,
You know, they're playing against grown men at 14, 15. So I think the system is a lot different. I think they're developing their players a lot faster out here, man. Like these days, I feel like the game being different is it's not all 1-on-1 out here. You gotta really know the game.
right.
You gotta fundamentals come first.
Yeah,
So, that goes a long way, learning the fundamentals first and then everything coming after that. So these guys you see, like they are not so athletic. They're not above the rim players,
right.
but the fundamentals are so developed. They can pass, shoot, dribble,
Yep.
and that's going to take you a long way, along with their talent. You know what I mean? So I think we need to get back to that in the U.S., man. Just developing these guys from the fundamental aspect. I think we need to get back to that.
No, it's crazy. Somebody made a point. 4 out of the 5 guys on first team All NBA this year were not American. I think 3 of them were Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, or maybe was it Luka? No, matter of fact, I don't think Giannis was first team. I think it might have been Luka, Jokic. No, matter of fact, Jokic wasn't first team. It was Embiid, Giannis, Luka, and Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
Mm,
Only
mm.
American on first team All NBA was Jason Tatum. It was like, damn,
Uh,
one person on there out of 5. And granted, Embiid and Shea aren't European, but they're not American. And then you got number 1 pick
yeah.
in the draft, Wemby, France. It's like, yo, what's going on here? Like, what's going on?
Hey, starting to shift. It's starting to shift.
How do you think that is a direct byproduct of those guys playing earlier? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like people always say the NCAA in college you can develop, but like, do you think that they have an advantage because they're starting to play pro at a younger age? Like, why do you think we're seeing this kind of shift happening now, as far as where you got 4 out of the top 5 players in the league is not American? Like, why do you think that is?
I think that's a part of it. I think that the fact that they're playing pro earlier and they're developing like that, I think that's a part of it. I think another part of it, bro, is social media is just getting out of hand, bro. Like these guys have these mixtapes and they're dunking and they're doing all that. That's all they care about.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's not what's gonna win you games.
right.
And I think that we need to get back to just the fundamental aspect and teach the game. Like the highlights are cool, but can you make the right pass? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, can you read a pick and roll? Like, can you do what's gonna help you to play at the next level and to win? And it's not all about highlights. So that's don't get me wrong. That's it's fun. It's fun. It's entertainment. That's what people want to see. But at the same time, you got to know how to play the game.
Right.
And I think that's what they have on us at this point. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I'd agree. So last two questions before we get you out of here, man. Number one is going to be, obviously the show is called What's in Your Bag. So we ask every guest, man, say a little bit of a fashion question, man. So it's twofold, right? You stepping out to the club. Let's say, your number one city was Paris. So let's say you stepping out for a night on the town in Paris, right? What's in your bag? So what you throwing on? Give us the fit that you wearing, number one. Second part of that question is literally like what's in your physical bag. If you got if you're a tote bag guy, if you were over the shoulder crossbody bag, what you throwing in the bag? What type of essentials are you throwing in there? So that's the two part of question there.
Man, if I'm stepping out in Paris, you gotta come correct, or you're not getting in the club.
Come correct.
They will not let you in, so you better come with it. So for me, I make sure like some type of designer, maybe a Mary shirt, maybe some Gucci, I don't know, Balenciaga, something like that, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The jeans probably gonna be regular, jeans. Maybe I don't know, maybe Zara, maybe I got a couple of Mary, I don't know, something like that, just to make sure because they're gonna look you up and down.
Oh, they gonna do one of these?
They're gonna definitely look at your shoes. If you wearing tennis shoes, you're not getting in.
Wow.
So I might throw on the McQueens, the all black McQueens, because I don't want my shoes to get dirty. You know what I'm saying? You know how I go in the club. I ain't wearing nothing white. And then nah, man, I ain't rocking the crossbody because I'll probably lose it. I'll probably leave it in there. Nah, so I'm gonna just take the wallet out. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have a wallet in the back pocket and then go from there, man.
Okay, solid, man. Man, because we had Kyle Allman Jr. on here. He plays for Paris Basket. And he was saying the same thing. He was like, bro, like if you in Paris, like you have to step out. If you're going somewhere, even if you're going somewhere, people will be casually going to like the grocery store or something. They be throwing on a fit. You'd be like, yo, what? Like,
bruh, they don't. Nah, it's totally different, bro. Totally different. Like they not stepping out the house in no like sweatpants and like sandals and like no, it doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
that's crazy to me, bro. That is crazy to me. Like,
because in America, it's all about being comfortable. Over there,
right.
like over there, they throwing that, they putting that shit on.
Man, every time. Have you ever got a chance to go to like any of the fashion week events while in Europe or anything? I know
nah, I haven't gotten a chance to do it, man. That's definitely on the bucket list though, for sure. My wife, she used to work for Balenciaga, so she was into the fashion a lot, and like she kind of put me on to a couple things. So,
okay.
And it's definitely on the bucket list.
You got to connect them dots, man. I know she got some plugs, sure.
Yeah.
So, last question we always ask our guests, man. Shout out to All the Smoke. We stole this segment from them. Who is one person that we should have on the What's in Your Bag podcast? And whoever it is that you say, you gotta give us the assist and try to help us get them on.
Man, so that's easy. Cam Clark, man, my guy. He's staying in Dallas as well. Played with him in France, my second year in Chalon, and probably one of the most stylish guys that I know, but also one of the best scorers I know, man. A ratchet, a bucket. So yeah, man, that's my guy. You should definitely have him on, man, for sure.
Say less, man. We're gonna tap in after we get this podcast done, and hopefully we can connect the dots and make that happen for sure. We'd love to have him on.
For sure.
Man, this has been a great conversation, bro. Well worth the wait for sure.
Likewise.
I always, number one, I feel like I always just love to connect with guys who have done this, man, for a long time and just be able to learn and take little pieces and gems. And this conversation has definitely inspired me a lot, bro. Number one, just you being a man of faith and being able to put your faith in God throughout the obstacles has inspired me a lot from being able to have this conversation and, gave me, I think, the push that I needed to just keep going on this journey, man. So, like I said, I think everything happens for a reason, and God definitely put us on this call together today to be able to talk about this. But definitely want to thank you for your time, man. I know you're in the off season right now, so you taking time out to jump on the pod definitely means a lot, man. And continue to be, a lot of, just continue to be inspiration to a lot of guys coming up, that are trying to follow in your footsteps and, being a small guard that's reached the pinnacle of overseas basketball, man. Definitely want to give you your flowers. Take my hat off to you, man, for what you've been able to do for a lot of guys and Thank you for coming on the podcast today, man. Definitely was a great conversation.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me, man. It's always nice to, like you said, just try to share my story, try to, motivate other people. I know a lot of guys are going through things and they might think that, it's too tough or they can't do it. But, man, if you just keep pushing and keep God first, man, anything is possible. So just, shout out to all those guys going through it right now, and just don't give up, man. And this is great what you're doing, man. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you having me on here. Like you said, everything happened for a reason, man. And I want you to know that you need to keep going too, man, for real. So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Always, man. We definitely have to run this back in a few years, man. When you get ready to
Absolutely.
Japan, you know what I'm saying? We can have some Japanese in person episode of What's in Your Bag, you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Cash out and ride over to the sunset. Well, all right, guys, this has been another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. As always, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, man. We're having these amazing conversations with a bunch of guys that I know you guys learn a lot from. So go ahead and tap that subscribe button. It goes a long way. It's going to be my guy, Pull Up Tay, on the outro. Make sure y'all stream his music, man. Until next time, folks. Peace.
Suave. I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mentor. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different route, change relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now